Listen, I have a black friend, so this can't be racist approach.
This is Felt Recoil.
All right, this is the Felt Recoil Podcast. My name is Chris. Across from me
is Patrick.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, man?
Hey, and then to my right, there's a duo of Chris's.
I'm surrounded by you guys.
Tonight's guest, Chris Clark. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping by. And Chris Harrell brought him. You doing all right, Chris Harrell? You don't have a microphone, but I'll ask anyway.
Doing fantastic.
Yeah, all right. I can see it in those glassy eyes. I'm kind of getting the impression, Patrick, you tell me if I'm wrong, that
I'll be glad to.
Harrell keeps coming to basically chaperone his guests. He recommends these people like he did Jonathan Brayton.
And drink whiskey.
And then he's like, oh, and you should have Chris Clark on. He'd be great. He's an Army vet, fun guy, probably get along with him. And then he like shows up and sits right next to him. And he's like, don't say anything dumb.
Well, he told me that I had to bring a bottle of whiskey to get on the show. So.
That is true, and it stays on the shelf when you leave. Just saying. All right.
We need more guests.
More guests. There's a lot to cover this week. Mainly, we're going to talk about our web store is up and running now. We'll get into that. And we're going to talk with Chris Clark about being in the Army. And then we'll ask him one question 5 times. And we're going to talk about CNN proving the point we've all been screaming for years now. But first, our charity of choice for the week, the Greenville War Fund. That's greenvillewarfund.com. It is the Wounded and Recovering Fund helping heroes heal. So what these guys do is, if you don't know this, if a police officer is injured in the line of duty, there can sometimes reach a point where the officer doesn't get paid. No money coming in. And that's where the War Fund steps in and helps ends meet while the officer recovers. Hence the name, the Wounded and Recovering Fund. Our good friend Chris Harrell, sitting directly to my right, is the driving force behind this charity, and they can't do it without your donations. So it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and if you'll visit greenvillewarfund.com, you can choose how your tax dollars get spent. You can give them to the government, and they'll waste them on monkeys in Nigeria being studied on how they peel bananas upside down or something like that, or you can give it to a worthy cause like the Wounded and Recovering Fund. greenvillewarfund.com. They would appreciate it. We would appreciate it. And I want to point something out. They'll be one of the recipients. We have a web store now. If you visit feltrecoilshow.com and click on gear, not only can you see all the gear we talk about on the program, but you can see our new t-shirt designs. There's coffee mugs on there. There's barbecue aprons, things of that nature. There's a whole just bevy of things on there you can purchase. And we're going to be real candid with you. We don't control the pricing, okay? Pricing is established by a third-party person or company that is basically creating the items when they get ordered and then shipping them out. Felt Recoil will make $3 per item. $3, okay? And so Patrick will get $1. I will get $1. Man, we're going to be filthy rich here soon.
I like the way this is headed.
And then we're going to pick charities, and the charity will get $1. So we'll run that seasonally. We'll pick different charities and rotate it around, let you know who's getting what occasionally. But for the most part, we'll gather the money, and then we'll make donations to these local charities in our community and in your community as well. We obviously support the Greenville War Fund. That's near and dear to us. But then Operation Underground Railroad will benefit. Places like Operation Enduring Warrior, Hidden Wounds, all sorts of charities around the country that are helping all sorts of people who need it. We'll be receiving some money. So if you want to support us and them, that's a great way to do it, okay? So feltrecoilshow.com, click on gear, and you'll be good to go. All right, now to our guest of the week, Chris Clark, U.S. Army from, did you say 2000 to 2008? Did I remember that correct? All right, and you were deployed in Iraq for how long? How long were you there?
Kuwait, October 4 to October 05.
October. Okay, so just you spent a year over there.
Rear with the gear, yep.
Yeah, in the rear with the gear. And now you've been doing IT for 21 years, right?
Yeah, about 19 too long.
So you're the guy that can. You're the guy that can track down everyone's history on the internet type stuff, or do you fix the computers?
No, we just track the internet history.
Okay. Get out of my house. All right, so we're going to chat with Chris. So let's start. You've been prepared. You've gotten the one question we're going to ask you 5 times, right? Essentially our 5 questions on the ones. You ready for that?
Sure.
Okay. What is the one gun you think everybody should own?
There's a lot of them. I mean, outside the 240 Bravo, which none of us can really own.
I mean,
Probably the.
We can dream, though.
You can dream. You can
I
dream.
can argue with that.
Once you've been behind it one time, it's pretty exciting. But I'd go with Springfield M1A.
Good choice.
Yes, excellent choice. Excellent choice. It's kind of a play on the classic, you know, like the M1A. You feel like it's the gun you could load up, throw in your backyard for 20 years, come out and still work for you.
Smells like leather-bound books.
Chris Harrell, you don't have a microphone for a reason. I'm just kidding. All right, what's the one book you think everybody should read?
So I'll tell you, my kids will tell you this, but I'm not a big reader, right? I don't read a lot of books, but I had surgery a while back, maybe 5-6 years ago, and I picked up a company, a book called In the Company of Heroes. I don't know if you've read it, but it's a phenomenal book. It was one I just couldn't put down.
Is that an Ambrose book? Is that Steve Ambrose?
No, it's actually, it's a book from, most of us have seen the movie Black Hawk Down. So it's about Mike Durant,
Okay.
the helicopter pilot that actually lived through the whole ordeal. And he gives his whole story. It was actually written by him and a whatever they call the professional writer that writes the books with him. So it was just phenomenal. Just a great book you couldn't put down. So I'd recommend it to everybody. It's full of patriotism, it just shows you exactly what these guys go through day in and day out. And, the horrors of war, and really brings it to light.
Do you have a standout moment from that book? What's something you remember that would compel me to read it front to back?
Well, yeah, so the whole book is really, it's just, the whole book stand out, honestly, but the stuff that Durant went through after his Black Hawk crashed, being imprisoned and alive the whole time, major spinal damage, and I guess the one thing that really stands out in my mind, he's being held captive in a room and not even being watched really, and the guy walks in the room with an AK and just sprays rounds all through the room and actually hits Durant. So he's survived a helicopter crash and then gets shot while he's in captivity. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a standout book.
The most interesting part there is they've made such a fuss about Gitmo, you would assume that their accommodations for our guys are pristine.
Beachfront.
I mean, you would think.
Wait, they're
right? I was supposing, but apparently no. Thanks, Chris Clark. You ruined
Where do we
that.
go to protest?
Hashtag it. Twitter.
Oh.
Twitter. Chris Clark, what's the one movie you think everybody should see?
Oh, Lord.
Get off Google.
Man, what's funny? I wrote my answers down, so I'm not on Google, but I was just accused to be on Google. But, man, I grew up in this sounds cheesy coming out of a 44-year-old guy's mouth, but I grew up in the Marvel and DC age, and I love those movies, man.
Yeah.
It's just, but I don't watch a lot of TV, so I can't really, just anything Marvel, anything DC.
Yeah? So what's your favorite out of those?
Man, I just got back from seeing Wonder Woman, man. I got to say, she's awesome.
That good. I've heard it's really, really good.
It's insane.
I saw Despicable Me 3. Obviously,
it's
my
like
son and I
that.
were flipping a coin.
It's like that, but different.
That one went like that, but different.
Right.
Everybody says it's incredible.
It's like that, but real people, and like a plot that you can be older than 4 and follow.
Nothing
Right.
like Despicable Me.
Wonder Woman. What's the one album you think everybody should buy, listen to, download?
Well, of course, anything Wiz Khalifa, but past that, I'd say just like the best of George Strait. So I'm a big George Strait fan, but
Is that you stagger those together on your playlist?
yeah,
Wiz
I mean, it's
Khalifa,
just back
George
and forth
Strait,
the whole time. Just an upper and a downer kind of thing.
anything George Strait. What was the George Strait movie? Pure Country, the Pure Country
Absolute
soundtrack.
classic.
Yeah, is that like
I think that's one of the worst movies of all time.
what?
Top that, Wiz Khalifa.
Wow. All right. Well. Okay. I don't know what to say. It was like blasphemy to George Strait from a guy that just said George Strait.
No, he sings great. I don't know about being an actor.
Love is unconditional. All right. Okay. Chris, what's the one piece of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
So thankfully, my kids have gotten past this a little earlier than I did. They, it probably took me about 22 years, I guess, about 40. I finally realized that, I think one of the things I'd rather tell myself at 18 is it's not what you know, it's how much you don't know. I mean, I think I get up every morning realizing that, the older I get, the more I don't know, and instead of being this young kid that knows everything and, running his mouth all the time, and I'm just lucky I got kids that have learned a lot of that ahead of time. So that's the piece I tell myself. Just shut up and listen. Find an old guy, especially an old war vet, man. I love finding those guys out on the street. And as soon as they open their mouth, you key in on it. You can tell, oh my gosh, this guy is, he's the real deal. And I just now, as opposed to 20 years ago, I'll shut up now and just zone in on that guy and just listen and learn. And I think that's probably what I tell my 18-year-old self.
Yeah.
So
be willing to learn at all turns. All right, let's recap. Chris Clark's answers. The one gun you should own is the M1A from Springfield Armory. The book you should read is In the Company of Heroes. The movie, the must-see Wonder Woman. And the album is Anything by George Strait, minus the Pure Country soundtrack. And the advice is shut up and listen. All right, so we're going to talk a bit now. What's going on behind me? Everybody okay?
Chris is borrowing your Jerry Mitchell hat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very good. If you steal that hat, you can. It's going to run you $50.
Or Jerry Mitchell is going to shoot you.
Yeah, from
whichever one you
6 miles away. New record kill shot.
I've seen him shoot.
We have a Jerry Mitchell
You would know then.
hat that sits in the office. The story of it is St. Jude's Hospital did an auction, and Mitchell signed a Vortex hat, and a $50 bid won that hat. I couldn't believe it. So I'm glad to give $50 to St. Jude's Children's Research.
Awesome.
Great organization, by the way, if you don't know. They should be on your list of people to do business with. Nobody ever pays for treatment from them. Did you know that? Nobody. All right. Okay. So last week, what was it we talked about last week where we said you could do... Oh, it was the Depp assassination, right? When Johnny Depp said somebody should assassinate the president. And everybody's knee-jerk reaction, which is kind of overplayed at this point, is to go, can you imagine if somebody said that about Barack Obama? Right? That's what everybody says. And somehow people are still allowed on TV to say those things. It blows my mind that you'll turn on the TV and somebody will be on the news and they'll go, well, what say you, pundit expert? And the guy goes, yeah, well, I'd say if somebody had said that about Barack Obama, his career would be over. And everybody goes, yes. There's no... Like, why is this an amazing point to make? Everybody has said this 1,000 times for the last 8 years. Anyway, here's my point, is we mentioned there that was old news. Like, that's, a tired old trick. Stop with that. Find new ways to express why this stuff is frustrating. And then... we were making the point that maybe if someone assassinated Johnny Depp, it could prevent civil war. Johnny Depp is calling for civil war and terrorism, but if somebody were to kill people like him, that actually might benefit society. Now, we certainly hope nobody does. Okay, we certainly hope nobody does. But if they did, society might arguably be a better place because people like that wouldn't exist. Kind of like pedophiles. Not to say Johnny Depp is a pedophile, but the death of both of them might benefit society. Am I making sense? I think it's clear now. Okay.
This is taking a strange lap around the block.
Follow me down this path for another quick minute.
You got it.
We'll get home, I promise. So my point is this. We make all these arguments against the liberal media and how ridiculous they are. And the leftists of the world, the socialists, would argue with us. But then we have meme jihad this week with CNN and the guy that created the meme showing Donald Trump. And it's worth reflecting on the fact that the leader of the free world was once on WrestleMania. That is worth stopping and considering for a quick minute.
I thought the whole thing was CGI because I don't follow wrestling.
I remembered it. And I don't follow wrestling.
From Trump being on WrestleMania? Yeah. And so that's a pause. Pause to reflect. Wow. And then you have a guy who took if you haven't seen it, you can go to our Facebook page and see the meme or video in question. Because really it's a GIF, right? Like I think technically it's not a meme. It's moving. So yeah, it's a GIF. And so... You got Trump beaten up on CNN, and CNN says, well, that's urging violence against liberal reporters. Now, before we started recording, it seems to me nobody's read this article. Am I the only one that's read CNN's explanation of how they found the guy? Okay.
You read CNN?
I do. Yeah. All right, don't punch me in the face.
I think he's about to illustrate exactly why.
Here's the great part. All right, so this is from today, July 5th, 2017. It was updated. The title of the article is How CNN Found the Reddit User Behind the Trump Wrestling GIF. The Reddit user who initially claimed credit for President... And here's what... Listen, if you don't know the backstory, here's what happened. Trump tweeted this video, if you will, of him beating up on CNN, in the sense that it's him at WrestleMania beating up Vince McMahon, but somebody took McMahon's face and made it the CNN logo, and Trump's like bashing in this CNN person, as it were, right? So CNN's all, pissy about that. So they say, the user from Reddit who initially claimed credit for the tweet that showed Trump tackling CNN issued an apology Tuesday for the video and other offensive comment he posted. One day after CNN identified the man behind the account and attempted to make contact with him. I love his Reddit name. Reddit user Han A-Hole Solo. Yep. He first shared the GIF last Wednesday of Trump pummeling a wrestler with CNN's logo imposed on his face. CNN could find no earlier instance of the GIF. I wonder, have you guys seen the one of the traffic accident where it's Trump tweeting and it's the motorcycle rider is Trump and he kicks the car and the car is Twitter and Twitter crashes into the wall, but then it comes out and there's like a car labeled CNN that crashes into that car. Have you seen that?
I missed that one.
All right, that's on our Facebook page as well. Go look at that one's, to me, almost better. But anyway, here's the point. It's not the first time this has happened. So the user is apologizing, writing in a lengthy, and this is still from CNN.com. No kidding, from CNN.com. The user is apologizing, writing in a lengthy post on Reddit that he does not advocate violence against the press and expressing remorse there and in an interview with CNN for other posts he made that were racist and anti-Semitic. First of all, I'd like to apologize to the members of the Reddit community for getting this site and the sub. That's like a sub post. If you go to Reddit, you can subscribe to different threads, and then there's subs in the threads, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he hates getting the community embroiled in the controversy that never should have happened. I'd also like to apologize for other posts I've made that were racist, bigoted, and anti-Semitic. I'm in no way that kind of person. I love and accept people of all walks, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Here's the part that matters to everyone listening. If you're paying attention to this story, here's what matters. After posting his apology, Han A-Hole Solo called CNN's K-File and confirmed his identity. In the interview, he sounded nervous about his identity being revealed and asked not to be named out of fear for his personal safety. CNN is not publishing Han A-Hole Solo's name. I'm going to read this. This is verbatim from CNN's website. CNN is not publishing Han A-Hole Solo's name because he is a private citizen who has issued an extensive statement of apology, showed his remorse by saying he has taken down all of his offending posts, and because he said he is not going to repeat this ugly behavior on social media again. In addition, he said in his statement he could serve as an example to others not to do the same. CNN reserves the right to publish his identity should any of that change. So
is CNN like 13-year-old, like a 13-year-old girl?
It's bullying, right? But isn't it more fascism than anything else?
Oh, yeah, dude.
I mean, isn't that what fascism is? Rule by force?
Silencing dissent.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Chris, you were in Kuwait. What was that like?
It was great while you're on post.
Yeah?
Yeah, you kind of watched your six while you're off. I mean, nothing like Iraq, but yeah, I mean, you didn't trust anybody over there.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for the segue. Did you feel welcomed? Did you feel like you were in an environment where the people were like, man, so glad that guy's here to protect us? Or were you like, better watch out for that guy. He might be a jihadi John and I just don't know it yet.
Yeah, the bottom line is you were looked down, they looked down their nose at you and you were looked at as a hired gun.
Would you say that you felt in Kuwait possibly the same way Han A-Hole Solo now does in dealing with CNN?
Sure, yeah.
Like they're holding something over you. Like, I will blow you up unless you do as you're told. There's really no difference between the way, and it's so funny because you look at Antifa and you say, it's interesting, what an amazing time to be alive where you're watching fascists protest fascism. They're literally attacking people with bike locks, violently pummeling anyone who disagrees with them politically, silencing dissent, as Patrick just said. That's their modus operandi. And then they act as if everyone who disagrees with them is the actual fascist. So now you have CNN who says we should all be accepting of everyone, and we shouldn't be racist, and we shouldn't be bullies, and we should think fat women are attractive, and they do all these things that are so anti-nature, right? Like, you shouldn't be allowed to think the way you think, or you're a racist, or you're a bigot, or whatever it is. Like, the body shaming thing that's popular now. You can't body shame people. The last time I went to my doctor, he didn't say to me, Chris, you're beautiful on the inside, and let me go. He actually said, you should do everything possible to lose about 30 pounds because your blood pressure's high. You're overstressed about whatever it is. You have an easy life. I know this. And I was like, thanks, Doc. How do you know all these things? Anyway, the point is,
I listened to the show.
Yeah, science isn't going to lie to you. Science is going to be real with you, right? So you can't pretend to be anti-fascism and then be a fascist network news organization. You can't pretend that you accept everybody and then beat up on people because they have beliefs different than yours. So, question. Can anyone else remember, and I mean this, let's rack our brains for a second. When is the last time a major media outlet publicly blackmailed somebody with information like this?
I can't think of anything.
I cannot place any of it where there was ever a scandal of any sort.
Certainly not publicly. I'm sure it happens. Let's be honest.
Yeah, in the background all the time. I've been a slight victim of that, as I've said on this podcast before. I worked for Cecil Staton, who was a state senator, and we had dirt on a big client of his and how he was improperly influencing the local government. That guy's name was Wayne Lowe. And when I was going to play the audio on the show, because he spent so much money with the station, Cecil's wife sent an email that said, tell Chris if he wants to read that story and go find a new job. Happens all the time. They're going to silence things that will hurt their sponsors. They're going to silence things, even if you watch Fox News, which is usually my news of choice. Anytime it comes to Islam, they put on the silk gloves, they reach out and massage it, and they go, we agree. The majority are peaceful people. It's a tolerant religion. And then you sit there and you go, but there's always that. But 90 people were just blown up again by somebody who believes in the most tolerant religion in the world. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm agreeing with you. These things happen in the background, but I cannot, for the life of me, come up with another time any individual ever has been publicly shamed and bullied by the media and blackmailed like this.
Well, it sounds like it's going to catch up with them. And the reason I say that is it seems like right now it's this hashtag CNN blackmail thing is trending. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but I guess that's a thing. Especially on the Twitters. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's how I found a link to this. When I first saw somebody screen cap this, where they said we reserve the right to publish his identity should any of that change, I thought they were lying. I thought, whoa, fake news, because I read CNN and I know fake news is a thing from Fox News. And then I went on and it was fake news from fake news or something like that. CNN literally saying we will publish your identity until... Who cares? Like, who cares? Is there... Somebody walk me through the negative consequence of them knowing I made that GIF. Like, that's me. I made that, and Trump was beating up on CNN. I would want people to know me. I would be on TV. What they're really doing here is they're holding on to his racist, in quotes, posts, where he probably made inappropriate jokes about black people and Jews, as he says in his apology, and they're going to post all that and ruin his career and his family. So it's not about the CNN GIF, I guess, as much as it is they'll do a character smear on the guy like they do everybody else. Sarah Palin.
Probably already hit him with lawyers. It was probably already all done behind the scenes. The lawyers are going, hey, you can swim in a lawsuit for the next 10 years and lose everything, or you can make this statement.
Yeah.
Blackmail, fueled extortion.
Yeah, it's extortion. That's exactly right. And forcing people to play along. And it's really, it's kind of Nazi-ish, right? Like, if you posted something against the state, and we can't look like we hate that, so what we're going to do is we're going to build a straw man out of your racist posts, and we're going to say, this is what we're actually worked up about, so we're coming after you for that. And then everybody supports us because it's not that we're upset that you made fun of us, we're upset because you're a racist, and so we'll tear you apart and skewer you as a racist.
Think about what this says about where journalism in America is now, because clearly CNN's coming off this big fake news thing where they've been pushing this Russian agenda ever since the election. It's literally gone nowhere. There's been no evidence of it. It's taken them all this time, like 6, 7, 8 months now, and they still can't come up with any concrete evidence.
We're getting there. Okay.
Now
they're getting there.
Now they've been outed, so it's basically dropped from the news cycle. And then now you have the same news agency that has created all this quote unquote fake news that Hillary Clinton stands against, by the way. Fake news, that is. And now they're threatening just regular citizens. That seems a little odd. And
does it seem odd though, or is it expected? Like, this is kind of the last resort, right?
Yeah, it's expected at this point.
This is all they got left. All they've got left. And
I did hear a rumor earlier today that this what'd you call him, Han A-hole Solo?
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that he's actually like a 15-year-old kid. Any validity to that?
No, the article goes on to say that's not true, which is funny because here's CNN. I think it was in the end.
Moniker of truth.
Yeah, well, so they go, they're not publishing after Trump tweeted. Oh, man. I don't see it now. But anyway, they make a point in that article to say, and he's not 15 like everybody keeps saying. He's in his 50s. And it's like, so? I mean, so what? You're still beating up on the guy. You're still bullying him. You're still using, fascist tactics against him. I wanted to find, let me see if I can run this down real quick, because I read Milo Yiannopoulos here. I think this is it. CNN host gleefully, gleeful. CNN host gleeful after fraud news network tracks down threatens. This was a new term for me. Dox, D-O-X. Was anybody else familiar with that term?
Never heard it. You're an IT guy. You don't know this?
No, I didn't either.
Apparently, this is like I'm using air quotes, a hacker term of outing someone online.
Yeah, maliciously outing someone's online identity to smear them, essentially. But at the end of this is the great part here. So here's all these tweets, and then Milo, I thought this was the one. Hold on, I might be wrong. Milo basically goes through the laundry list of fake things CNN has had to retract recently, and it's at least a dozen. They have, and I'm talking within 2 months or so. They're retracting all sorts of stories, and now you're in a position where, like I said, the reason that I think about it is this is all they've got left. They're wrong. They're lying about everything else. Everybody's catching on to it, and this is what they have left is to go after people. Here you go. Milo says they've been having quite a rough time lately. July 3rd, CNN cites discredited BuzzFeed dossier on Russia. July 1st, CNN airs bogus National Enquirer cover story. June 30th, CNN accused of editing out eyewitness testimony of voter fraud. June 30th, CNN producer, Americans are stupid as SHIT. Conway looks like she got hit with a shovel. June 28th, Chris Cuomo falsely accuses guest of calling CNN fake news. Let that sink in for a minute. The host on CNN falsely accuses a guest of calling CNN fake news. On June 28th, same day, a report on CNN, nearly half of CNN's Twitter followers are fake. June 27th, senior CNN producer admits Trump Russia is BS and it's all about the ratings. And on June 26th, 3 journalists are out at CNN after the Trump Russia fake news falls apart. So they are having a rough time, and now they have to bully people around. But anyway, like I said, all expected.
I don't understand how we don't have the guy doesn't have a lawsuit to stand on from his First Amendment rights. I mean, they're obviously suppressing his First Amendment to speak his mind. You know, I mean, the guy came out and issued an apology, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the right to say whatever it is he wants to say.
I almost wonder if he actually issued any of that apology.
Now, I think he was probably heavily advised on what his apology should say.
That's what I mean.
Probably one of those instances where we have this audio, or we have this material on you, and you can either issue an apology that basically says yada yada yada, or we publish it and you can deal with the fallout. I think CNN would tell you, Chris, that they're not trampling his First Amendment rights. They're just going to publish everything he's ever said. Why is he ashamed to stand by it, right? Which is wildly hilarious considering here's a network who's been embroiled since the hack of the DNC. And we know that they colluded with Hillary Clinton on the questions for the debates. Donna Brazile was feeding questions to Hillary Clinton, and CNN wanted to act like maybe their privacy was violated. But what goes around comes around, right? So how can we, as CNN, ever be upset that someone shares our private information at this point? Which, by the way, they have done. People have grabbed CNN hosts' personal information, and it's now all over the internet. You can find Anderson Cooper's home address and phone number. They got Brian Stelter up there, his home address and phone number. So they have really opened a Pandora's box, which is probably what they deserve. I do think everybody should be posting that GIF, though. Like, everybody who's anybody. And there's some great ones, by the way. We'll put them up at feltrecoilshow.com. Just click over to our Facebook page. But some of this stuff people are creating on the blackmail. There's a picture of Reddit being held hostage by CNN. CNN tracked down creator of Trump wrestling meme and threatened him. This is how the internet is responding. There's just a lot of really, really good stuff on here. Jihad John in one of his famous beheading videos, but it's CNN now. And then the hostage has a Reddit face. There's a lot of good stuff on here. So anyway, we'll get that posted. Chris, let's back up and talk a little bit about your time in Kuwait. I'm interested because, kind of, I guess as a civilian who was never in the military, when I think about you guys being over there, it kind of seems to me like that was real easy for us as a country. But maybe that's because we weren't hearing about it every day as we started to, kind of later into Bush's time in office. It was like every day we were pummeled with only negativity. I've said before, not to divert too far, but that's a good reason to turn the news off. Is you're just constantly geared towards the negative.
Absolutely.
That's all they talk about. But as you mentioned earlier, I'm sure it was tense for you, but what was your overall feel of being over there?
Well, again, Kuwait wasn't nearly as bad as our brothers in Iraq. I mean, Iraq, the guys up there were getting hit every day. And, Kuwait was very, very reserved compared to that. I mean, you didn't have nearly the violence. As a matter of fact, the rumor around camp was that the Kuwaitis were actually paying the terrorists in country to basically just sit still. Don't do anything, don't make a ruckus, and we'll give you X number of dollars. And so, but every now and then, out on 7th Ring Road and the main highways there in Kuwait, our convoys would get shot at, and somebody'd run out with an AK and buzz down the convoy. We had a guy get run over. He was out changing a tire on a Humvee, and a car just swerved into him and killed him. So that sort of thing. But it was no cakewalk. I mean, the guys in Iraq and Afghanistan both just get pummeled every day.
Yeah.
I think they still do.
Yeah. Do you? And you don't have to answer this. But do you feel like that's a situation we should still be involved in? And I'm not talking the merit of the troops that serve or anything like that. I'm just saying, and we can even take it bigger scope. Do you feel like America is playing an appropriate role when we get involved overseas, or do you see it more as like we should be a little bit more separated from the rest of the world?
Yeah, so I've got a real anti-mainstream thought process on that. I mean, you've got, the big bankers and the big ruling elite in the country that have reasons for being in those places that are, beyond what we talk about day in and day out. And most of it's, follow the dollars, right? But you got bad guys in the world, anywhere in the world. I don't give a damn about rebuilding anybody's country. If you are creating genocide in your country, I believe it's our duty to go over there and kill that person.
Sure.
Eliminate them from the face of the earth. ISIS should be eradicated.
Yeah.
And leave the people a letter and say, hey, read this. Fix your country. If you ever do this again, we'll be back.
Yeah.
But, I mean, no, being over there embroiled in that thing day in and day out and seeing my boys get torn apart, it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, not saying anything about the troops. I mean, I love every one of my brothers, but, I mean, we should be very interested in killing the bad guys and much less interested in the impossible situations we put ourselves in every day.
Yeah. Is it, do you view it looking back, not even looking back, but as someone who's been there and is home now, because you've been 12 years. You got out of the military in 2008, right? But so what's that? 9 years. You were back from Kuwait in 2005, though, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you look back at your time there, do you feel like you positively accomplished things as the U.S. as a whole? Has the U.S. as a whole accomplished positive things over there?
Yeah, I mean, if you look right now, I mean, you know, you've got the Iraqi government that's, I mean, no thanks to Barack Obama. I mean, he set us back and really just a lot of blood was shed for no reason.
I mean, it feels like he set the whole country back 100 years.
Yeah,
so I'm not surprised to hear that it feels like he set our dealings with the Middle East back probably 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, we walked in and everything I don't think it was under control completely, but I mean, you had a semblance of peace, and then we immediately just pull out everybody, and then it all goes to hell, and ISIS comes back in the country, and he tries to set up this caliphate, and then how many more of my brothers and sisters died now, or are going to have to die,
right,
killing these people off to you know, provide security.
Do you feel like your perspective on it has changed if you looked at yourself today versus while you were there? Has your perspective changed at all? Did you go into Kuwait thinking this is what I need to be doing, this is what we always should be doing?
Yeah, no, and I think, well, I can't speak for every soldier out there, Marine or whoever, but I think, you know, going into the situation, most of us thought we were helping people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reason, you know, we were told we were going, was to help people, to depose a dictator and to, you know, reestablish some sort of democracy in that country. And I think most of us believed it. Looking back now, I really have changed my thought on it. I really don't think that that's our place as a country. I think our place as a country, given the God-given power that we've been given, is to hunt down the evil men in this world and destroy them.
So let's say you're president for a day. How do you change, or what? Just take a blank slate. But the current world situation is what it is right now. But you have to offer a solution. What do you do as president for our situation with the Middle East, with Afghanistan, Iraq, and, you know, Palestine, Israel, on and on the list goes of these aggressive Muslim countries that we deal with? How would Chris handle that as president?
Man, that's a complex situation. I mean, obviously, Israel is and should be a friend of the United States, and we should be a friend to them in any situation. But I'm not sure, after, you know, looking at this thing for the last 10 or 15 years, that the people over there want help.
Yeah.
I don't know that those countries know anything other than dictatorship, that they can handle anything other than dictatorship. It's unfortunate, but we see very little progress for the millions, billions of dollars that are spent and the massive amount of lives that are spent.
Did you get a feel that some of that mentality of them comes from their tribal heritage? Because they are very tribal people. You know, it's how's it go? It's family, sect, and then tribe for them. That's the hierarchy in their lives. And then everyone is encompassed under the religion of Islam. But family first, then your sect, and then your tribe. Or maybe I'm mixing that up. Might be family, tribe, sect. But the point is, they're not very interested in outsiders over there. And so do you feel like that contributes to the dynamic between us and them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, I think that's the majority of it. They don't want a democracy. They don't want a westernized, you know, I mean, you look at how many Middle Eastern countries, Iran being one of them, that was completely westernized up until the Shia, what was it?
79?
Khomeini that took over, completely reversed everything that had happened. I mean, I don't think the majority of those countries want anything to do with us, and honestly, I mean, if they could get rid of us all, I think they would.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they're told to, but I think that's part of the quote-unquote religion they follow, but that's a personal opinion. So let's say, let's carry through with this. You're still president, and you can write a law, and it's going to get passed. Yeah. And this isn't war Middle East stuff. I want to hear from you personally. Chris Clark is president. He's going to write a law. It's going to pass. What's the law going to be?
It'd be an amendment to the Second Amendment, which would state and further the Second Amendment's rights, meaning that no government entity could ever change the Second Amendment, and it needs to encompass the right to own and bear arms with no restrictions. I mean, that's what the Constitution specifically says, and yet we have states constantly infringing on our Second Amendment right to carry. So I think just solidifying the Second Amendment would be because, I mean, you have no other amendment in the Constitution that is as powerful as the Second Amendment. If you get rid of the Second Amendment, or the more you limit the Second Amendment, the more you're able to limit every other amendment.
Yeah.
And so we need to shore that up, give the people the right the founders intended them to have so that they can fight back against a tyrannical government, so that they can defend themselves without, I mean, right now, I've told him, me and him have had this discussion, you guys may disagree with me as well, but my concealed carry permit is the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
The 10th Amendment specifically says that anything not outlined in the Constitution is the right of the states.
Sure.
And the Second Amendment is fortunately outlined in the Constitution. So in my opinion, the states do not have the right to legislate and tell somebody that they cannot carry a weapon.
So the right to keep and bear arms extends beyond the home and property is your view.
Period. Okay. Yeah, I really believe that. Now, thankfully, in South Carolina, we can protect our home and our property and whatever, but when you go out in public, like when I go out in public, I don't have a concealed carry. So I'm either illegal and protecting myself, or I'm not protecting myself.
You're always legal in your car. Right. That's worth considering in this state. That's one thing South Carolina has right.
That's right.
I'm with you. We work in a gun store. We talk about it. So one quick point, and then I'll continue your point. Supporting constitutional carry gets harder in a gun store.
Near impossible.
Yeah, you get so many people pointing loaded guns at you that you go, stop it. But beyond the point.
You're too dumb. You're going to do this everywhere. I already know it.
Right. But, we get involved. We get involved in these conversations, and I always say to people, you can be mad at me or whatever, but this form you're having to fill out, that is 100% an infringement on your right to keep and bear arms.
Absolutely.
The 4473, the fact that the FBI, look, let me share with you, Chris, my greatest moment. I went back to college as an old man. And literally mid-30s, I went back to college, and I'm only 36 now. So very recently I got done. And it did me no good. Let me be very clear about that. I'm still working retail. But my point is this. I had a moment that will forever stay with me where I had a very liberal professor who I would not say was entirely fair to conservative thinkers, but he was willing to hear us out. And I was one of the few that he would always pick on because I had multiple classes with him. He was a poli-sci teacher. I was a poli-sci major. So I was in a constitutional law class, and he was on a tirade about voting and how conservatives just want to stomp on everybody's right to vote by making them have an ID. And that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong. And then he says, Mr. Vermillion, any retort? Which he always did, which I thought was nice. And he goes, any retort? And I said, I'll agree with your position, but I'm going to ask you this. If the right to vote is an individual right and cannot be impeded by presentation of identification, as you say, right? He goes, yes. I said, and we know that the Supreme Court has ruled in McDonald versus Illinois and D.C. Heller that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual right as well. Shouldn't we agree that it also cannot be impeded by the requirement of presentation of identification? And I kid you not, his exact words were, I see your logic, and it terrifies me. I was like, but that's the point. That's the point. If this is a right, the Second Amendment is a right, you have to understand, if you don't know this, when you buy a gun, they ask you name, address, race, and ethnicity. Those are separate things. You have to tell them if you're Hispanic or not. Then you have to pick a race. Then you have to go down and tell them your age and your weight, and that goes on, and all the things you may or may not have done in your past, and do you abuse alcohol or illegal substances?
Right.
And everybody's fine with that. Everybody's fine with it. But do that before you vote. Do that before you can join a church. Have the state come in and say, fill out this form before you can join this church. Everybody would be in an uproar. But for some reason, with the Second Amendment, no problem. Everybody's cool with it because everybody knows jack about guns, and so they're terrified by them, and they go, well, guns kill people every day. By the way, quick side note, read a statistic today. Did you know that around the world, more than 7,000 times a day, a gun is used to defend an innocent person's life? Think about that. 7,000 times a day. That's amazing. Okay, so your law would basically solidify the Second Amendment. So where do you stand on the Hearing Protection Act? And in case you haven't heard, have you read about the Hush Act?
I did this morning.
Okay, so the Hush Act, have you heard of this, Chris?
No, I've heard of hearing protection. I haven't heard of Hush. What's that?
So the Hush Act follows basically the formula of the Hearing Protection Act. Sounds like you're familiar with it.
Goes much further.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Hearing Protection Act says we're going to treat Class 3 item suppressors, specifically, we're going to treat suppressors basically like long guns.
Yep.
Or maybe handguns.
Long guns.
Is it long guns? Okay. So you could buy them between states as long as your states agree on laws. You could be 18 and up and buy a suppressor. The Hush Act says no, it's an accessory. And it still refunds all tax stamps paid since October, some date in October of 2015.
15th.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll never do that.
Right. That's
that'll-
the
the
money's already spent.
Yeah. Wait, so since George W. Bush did his stimulus, right? Can anybody else remember a time where the government gave people money back willfully? Like, we're not talking tax
No.
returns here. We're talking, oh, you already paid us this. Let us give it to you
I
back.
have it on good authority that will never happen.
How could it? How could it?
The money's already spent. It actually costs more than $200 to process each one of those tax stamps.
Only the government can make it cost more than $200 to fill out a form and stamp it. But okay.
Right. So the money's gone. The money's long gone.
Never see it again.
We're never getting that money. So, my personal opinion, if either of these pass, what will end up happening is before these bills pass, they will be amended and that will be removed.
And I'm okay with that. I don't need
there's
any
no
money
other-
back.
Just give us our rights.
Yeah.
Just who cares about the money?
So where do you stand on that? Do you think suppressors should just be accessories, or would they be regulated like firearms under President Chris Clark?
The right to own and bear arms shall not be infringed. I mean, we're not saying what arms are can be regulated, what arms can be infringed. I mean, if you want a suppressor, get a suppressor. If you don't want to blow your ears out where you're killing the bad guy, fine. Have a suppressor.
I like you a lot. I'm going to ask you a Constitution question. Where do you stand? So, Second Amendment. There's a big debate about the comma, right? So, I'm having a brain freeze here. Somebody tell me how the Second Amendment starts. The security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia, comma.
Yes.
Being necessary to the security of a free state, comma. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Did I get that right? I think that's right. I think that's it. So there's a big debate about the comma and what the militia means in the Second
the
Amendment.
trolls will get you, sir.
I know. I have a copy here. And Chris Harrell will appreciate this. Look at that leather-bound copy.
Leather-bound copy.
Thank you, Saddleback Leather.
Smell.
Let me. I'm telling you right now. Listen.
It probably does smell amazing.
You think I'm joking? I buy Saddleback leather gear just because it makes everything smell so good all the time. Where are we here? I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to read it verbatim just to make sure I got it. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What was the militia to the founders, in your opinion?
Oh, it was the people banding together to defeat a common enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just what it said. I mean, it's guys, there's farmers, it was blacksmiths, it was preachers, it was whoever that needed to band together to create a group of men to go kick King George in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I believe firmly that that's what they were talking about, not this different definition of militia that the left wants to come up with now.
Yeah, the modern day militia, which is limited to a handful of people. Because if memory serves me correct, back in the day, everyone was in the militia. Every able-bodied man up to age like 63 or something was in the militia.
And I believe, technically, we all are as well because we're citizens of South Carolina.
Also,
because we're able-bodied adult males, we are technically a part of a militia.
Wouldn't you love to see the governor call up the militia? What would that look like?
That would be pretty amazing. I knew I was in a militia because I joined one under Obama. Yeah. It was called the No Obama Militia. I thought.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Just weekend meetings.
It dissolved, obviously, in November of this year. We just said, well, mission accomplished. Kind of patted ourselves on the back. Didn't really do a lot. Anyway. All right, so we talked about President Chris Clark passing a law. What one thing on the books right now would you do away with? what's the law you think about and you go, and don't say Obamacare. Let's go deeper than Obamacare because everybody would get rid of Obamacare.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. It's really not a law. I just want to get on a little soapbox here. But
lay it on us, please.
Let's just talk about the South Carolina legislature for a second. And it goes on. It goes on into the the federal level too. But this gas tax thing is just in my craw.
Okay, explain it. As if I've never heard of it. Tell me about the gas tax.
Okay, I might be wrong. You guys correct me. But didn't a few years back, during an election, didn't they put that up for a referendum?
Yes, sir.
An actual tax increase to pay for roads?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so then, not just a few years later, the South Carolina legislature says, we don't care what the people said. The people that sent us to Columbia, we do not care.
Yep.
We are going to tax you further, the hardworking people of South Carolina. Not one time did I hear anything come out of their mouths about reducing entitlement.
Yeah.
And so that is the one thing nationwide I would change. I'm sorry, but entitlements are out of control. The hardworking are being taxed beyond their ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and so we're looking at, in South Carolina, we're looking at 15 cents on the gallon. Did I hear that correctly?
I don't remember if that's right or not.
It's spaced out over 6 years, and it goes up 15 cents. And
adjusted for inflation after a certain point, too, I think.
Because all of our incomes have been adjusted for inflation. So.
Right.
And beginning now, like 2 days ago, every car registration and every new car purchased is going to carry a fee of, I think, upwards of almost $500 per car that goes to the state for this same funding. So you reach a point where you go, okay, I got my property tax bill, and I can show you where there's roads outlined on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've got my gas tax I already pay, and I can show you where roads are outlined on that. And now you're going to tack more gas tax and a fee on my car. And, by the way, my property tax on my vehicle. I was talking property tax on the half acre I own, or whatever, a third of an acre I sit on right here in my house. I pay on that, and there's road fees involved. And then on my car, there's road fees involved. And then at the gas pump, there's already road fees involved. Where's all this money going?
Mm-hmm.
Where's it going? And it's going to people who get Obama phones and people who get their benefits in order to buy food. So they can spend their cash on alcohol and weed and things of that nature. I saw a BuzzFeed video, I think it was this week. Did anybody else see that? About why drug testing welfare recipients doesn't work, how it's a huge failure. Have you seen that?
I'm willing to try.
I mean, put the fear of God in them.
Some states have enacted that. Didn't Texas just enact
Tennessee,
that?
I think Texas has. I believe Florida did the same, but I could be wrong on Florida, but I think Florida did as well. But Tennessee was their example. They enacted it in 2014, if I remember correctly, and then BuzzFeed was trying to say, well, it just hasn't worked, it hasn't worked, it hasn't worked. I don't care if it works or not. In the extent of, are we catching people on drugs? What I care about is that the people who are on drugs don't try to get benefits anymore. Exactly.
Because they fix the problem themselves.
Exactly.
And raising taxes is not going to fix money management problems.
Raising taxes will not fix money management problems. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
So the answer is to find out the list of South Carolina legislators that voted for this crap and go after them in the next election.
Yeah.
Get them out of office. I mean, find a list and go after them on social media.
Or as I like to call that, Vermilion term limits.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
Vote them
right.
out.
Yeah.
Let's get them out of there because, I mean, they're obviously not interested in the health and well-being of South Carolina citizens.
Yeah, a lot of people gripe about term limits, and I always say it happens every 2 to 4 years.
That's
every
right.
6 years sometimes. Those are term limits. You go and you vote them out. And I will tell you this, to back up what Chris is saying, at least in my life, and you know the adage where they say all politics is local. That's true, especially in the sense that you have to be in touch with your local politicians to affect the most change. What was the law? I can't remember, but there was recently a law they were going after. I wish I could remember. And I emailed my guy in the state house, okay? Not national, okay? Not the guy that goes to D.C., but the guy that goes to Columbia, South Carolina's capital. And I said, hey, I want to make sure you're going this way because that's how I feel about it, and you're my guy. And
He replied, right?
oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He was like, hey, man, appreciate it. That's kind of the overall tone I'm getting. Definitely voting in that direction. And I was like, thanks. Good hearing from you. And then I trusted him. It was the damnedest thing because I was suddenly like, hey, I believe in this guy. Yeah, right? I mean, he turned out, I lived in Greer at the time, so he's not my guy anymore. But, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, if you want to affect change, talk to the local people. Listen, I'll tell you a quick story. It's going to sound like a brag, but I don't mean it to be a brag. When I was in Warner Robins, Georgia, they passed a law that says no more businesses could open that would sell liquor. Okay, not within a certain distance of other businesses that were selling liquor. And so I made the point on my humble little radio show down there. I said, wait a second. Are they going to do this for churches? Because we got churches on every corner. And that's the same thing, regulating business, right? So can we do this for churches? Because I don't want any more churches in my neighborhood. And one of the councilmen was on the show talking with me about it. And afterwards he said, you've really given me something to think about. I'm going to consider that. And it kind of became a course of the conversation. And I kid you not, he changed his vote. And he told me, I'm going to vote no on that because I think you're right. I think it's a little too restrictive on people that want to do business. And if we open that door and let the government start restricting what types of businesses can build within a vicinity, it does. Because my point was, you're constricting competition, and that's actually bad for the people. You want as many stores around as possible so the prices stay low for the people. Anyway, so you can affect change. You just got to do it at a local level. Don't email Marco Rubio and tell him to vote against, the Affordable Care Act. Email your guy and say, make sure, like I said. And then if they voted for the gas tax, tell them, well, I'm not going to vote for you next time. I'm going to pick somebody new that'll actually go and do what I would like for them to do. We're at about an hour, which means my dad's going to yell at me. My dad, if it's not under 60 minutes, I get a nasty gram.
Busy.
So,
he's a busy man. He does not have time for these shenanigans.
Dad sets his watch by, I got up at 6 and started this thing. It better be 7 when it ends. My dad doesn't listen. I'm lying. I wish I knew who he was. Was there anything you wanted to say specifically, Chris, before we call it a day?
No, thanks for having me on. I'd like to be on again. This has been a great time, man. Yeah.
Anytime. We'd love to have you back. Here's what I'm going to do before it's over. Let me take this. Chris Harrell, come here. You've been wanting one the whole time. There it is. Just talk into it.
This will be bad.
Now he's got nothing to say.
Yep.
I'm speechless.
For the last 60 minutes out of my right ear, I kept hearing those two old guys on the Muppet Show. And now it's dead silent.
Next time I'm just going to get him a mic and not plug it in and see what happens.
I said earlier, to heart.
All right. I'm just kidding. Listen, thanks to Chris Harrell and thanks to Chris Clark for joining us this week. And please, 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 seriously, visit thegreenvillewarfund.com. Make a donation. Help the people who are out there. These are people who go to work every day to make sure you can live a peaceful life. And sometimes they're not allowed to. They get wounded, and while they're recovering, they may not get a check. So check out greenvillewarfund.com. Also, live right now, our Facts Not Feelings shirt.
You're welcome, Joey.
You're welcome, Joey. You can buy that, and we'll give a third of our proceeds, $1 but for every shirt, we'll give a third of the proceeds to a charity. But the shirt simply says "Facts, Not Feelings," because I think that's the way everybody should work in life. Facts, not your feelings. Facts. So visit feltrecoilshow.com, and there's a link there actually to greenvillewarfund.com under charities of choice. You can find them our charity of choice for this week. Thanks again to Chris Clark. Chris Harrell, thank you, sir, so much. Oh, and let me say something. Are you still doing the woodworking? Sometimes? I want to say this sincerely.
Just in order.
Chris Harrell came to my house this week and installed a custom-made barn door on this office, and it is absolutely amazing. So find him on Facebook or wherever, and is it still, what's the name of the company?
Palmetto Creations.
Palmetto Creations. Find Palmetto Creations. You need a coffee table, an end table, a barn door custom fit to your house. Hit him up. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Even my wife likes it, which is great because that's, your wife is always the one you have to please. You can do what you want, right. But if she doesn't like it, mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. So thanks for everything, Chris, and Chris as well, and then me, Chris, and then Patrick. All right.
All the Chris's.
We'll see you next week for episode number 34 of the Felt Recoil podcast. Oh, I never hit record.